All right, high rollers, I've been looking forward to this one all the way from Macau, one of the best heads-up poker players on the planet. He was on that human team in the highly publicized Humans versus AI heads-up challenge at the Rivers Casino in Pittsburgh. If you find yourself across the table from this guy, you gotta yell table change. He's that good. A team pro for Natural 8 Sport at natural8.com. He was just featured on Vice News for this Brains vs. Bot match, and Doug Polk calls him one of the best one-on-one players alive. That's high praise indeed. Dong Kim, our guest today. Dong, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Derek, for having me.
So you're in Macau playing a tournament, and I imagine some high-stakes cash games. How are you faring so far?
Pretty tired, actually. I just got in yesterday afternoon and literally ran straight to the casino to play poker, and I didn't expect to make day two, but so I gotta head down to day two in an hour or so.
And have you got a good chip stack?
Yeah, pretty decent. I have twice average, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, you can never be too hopeful with these things.
You guys live a crazy life. I mean, I'm wondering what your poker schedule is like. Are you always traveling? Is Macau a regular stop? I hear the action out there is pretty crazy.
Action's great in Macau. It's not as good as it was a long time ago, but everything's all relative, I started poker relatively kind of late. I mean, imagine if you were, in my shoes 8-9 years ago, in college and an American, and I had least opportunity to play online poker, whereas a lot of Americans don't. There's just a ceiling now. The games aren't as good as it used to be. So when people say Macau games are dead, I just think it's all relative. I think they're still pretty great. So that's what I think.
And we had Alec Torelli on, and he plays out there quite regularly. He says some of those games are getting pretty tough.
Don't get me wrong, they are tough, but there's still an incentive because they still have the VIP seating, but it is getting tough. The players, I think it's probably the toughest live player lineup in the world, and if there is a very good game, I don't think anyone leaves. It's not like 10 years ago where it's oh, I'm getting pretty tired, I'll see you guys tomorrow. But it is pretty tough, but I think they're still okay.
Yeah, there's still some money to be had then, I guess.
Yes.
All right, well, speaking of tough, I mean, it's been a monumental few weeks for artificial intelligence. Your team of humans got crushed by Libratus, this genius of a poker machine developed by computer scientists at Carnegie Mellon University. Safe to say that you guys are more impressed than deflated?
The only time we were really deflated was about the midway 3/4 of the way through. At the end, it's more of an acceptance thing, and now we're impressed, man. I mean, the Libratus, the algorithms was really utterly brilliant. I don't really know how this is going to be applied to the real world, but really everything about it was impressive. The whole experience was great.
Before we talk more about that experience, I want you to talk about your team. Jason Les, Daniel McCauley, Jimmy Chu, yourself. Those guys are pretty good, right? You guys play all similar, or did each one of you bring something different, certain talents and specialties to the team?
That's a great question. Actually, we play as similar as it gets because we're all friends. Just kind of going down the line. Daniel, I've known that guy for maybe 9 years. Jason, he was my roommate in Vancouver for the past few years. And Jimmy Chow, he used to be my roommate in Hong Kong and Las Vegas. So 5-6 years now. So we all go way back, and we all started from the bottom and played heads up together and moved up stakes. So as far as us versus the general player pool, I think everyone that played us or kind of knows the community knows that we play very, very similar. But I know these guys pretty well. We all have our opinions. We definitely share the same concept in a lot of major topics, but I know the differences of how Jason and I might differ, or Jimmy and I. I know which one of us are a little bit more spewy and which one of us are a little bit more cautious. So I know the differences, but in the grand scheme of things, we are as similar as it gets.
And by all accounts, this Libratus, I guess it's called, Libratus, was getting better each day. I mean, can you talk about the format, what you guys were noticing as time went on with this bot? You guys played for a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah, the bot got better every day. I mean, it really, really just got better every day. As the days went on, we were losing at a faster and faster rate, and it was learning new moves. It was doing things that it wasn't doing before. There were some things that the developers told us, Professor Sandham and Noam Brown, the lead developer. I think it wasn't necessarily adjusting or tailoring its play individually, so it was all still one bot. And another thing was basically we knew it was adjusting, but it wasn't doing things that we thought were. We were just basically seeing trends that weren't there, and we were just being paranoid. But overall, it was like incredibly. I actually didn't think that it would like adjust to us specifically, or as a team. It was that seems more of like an exploitative thing to do.
Well, listen, I mean, I've read somewhere that it really had some specific pre-flop strategies, and on the river, it tended to overbet, like these large overbets, and sometimes that puts you guys off. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, it actually has the overbets anywhere.
So it's not just the river.
So how Lebratus works is it knows certain number of bet sizes. I think it started with like 7 or 8 in the beginning, and those bet sizes are all relation to pot. For example, I can't be certain, but I don't think it knows all in, but it knows quarter pot, half pot, 3/4 pot, pot, 1.5 pot, 2 pot, 3 pot, 4 pot, 7 pot, and then I think there's a 20x pot, which is basically the all in, but you couldn't really do that early in the streets. So it only knows a percentage of the pot. So that's why it seems like there's a lot of all-ins in the river, because by the river, the pot gets bigger and bigger. The bot definitely just goes all-in somewhere. Like, for example, it happened twice where... you're familiar with No Limit Hold'em, right?
Yep.
Okay, so let's just say it's a single raise pot. Like, I raised and Lebratus calls. The board is like 10-9-5. The Lebratus checks, I bet, I don't know, 3/4 pot, and it just goes all in for just under 20K. So it does that. In my opinion, like, there should be no hands that ever do that, but I mean, we got our freaking beat down, so like, it's hard to say.
Now, do you think that's something that you incorporate into your... I'm talking about these large overbets now, that you already incorporate into your game in certain spots, or did you learn something from this machine that, hey, maybe I can do this more?
Both. Yeah, that's a really good question. I think there was an interesting point where about halfway into the challenge, it was getting pretty depressing. It seemed like we weren't going to win. We're still trying, but one thing that I was like, we were all kind of flattered about was about 3 or 4 years ago, we started applying game tree, and what Lebratus is doing in the grand scheme of things is what we started to apply. We played poker in a very two-dimensional way where we like basically, always played aggressive pre-flop, and we always see about the flop, and we didn't really know what happened if we checked or like how our range really changes. We really didn't think about the game tree. We actually kind of just didn't know about it. And so we were really flattered to think that, like, hey, this bot is basically doing what we've been striving to do. In fact, like, there are some times where, at the end of the day, for example, we get to see the hands Lebratus played. We can see the other mirror. And it's really flattering when we play the hand exactly the way that Lebratus played the hand. I mean, it's in a lot of the non-standard hands, obviously. Like, if you have like a good hand, then likely plays similarly. But, so yeah, we were trying to strive for what how Lebratus plays. But Lebratus just literally executes so much better and like so much more precisely. That's probably the right word for it. So it's something that like people cannot emulate. I've been pretty busy for the past few days, and I haven't had a chance to look at the sample. I'm in Macau for the next like week and a half. I'll have time next week to do some stuff and catch up on a lot of stuff, but for the most part I am really excited to like really figure out what was really going on. We didn't have as much time to look at the mega data, so I'm looking forward to that, just kind of seeing what really happened.
Well, for a guy like me, I mean, a lot of this is over my head, but for a guy like you, that information's crucial, right? Because you'll study that, you'll take that information to exploit future opponents.
Absolutely, yeah, that sounds about right. There are some concepts that I know that I just cannot apply. So Lebratus has a mixed strategy, so it likes to do a little bit of everything everywhere. It likes to do it a certain percentage of the time. One, there's a problem, there might be a sample size issue, but two, that's extremely tedious. Like that would mean that I would have to be in front of the computer clicking the randomizer and like knowing exactly what to do with every hand, and like once I like, for example, like 4-bet 9-10 off like 6% of the time on the flop, I have to know how I play these hands on the board. It's just too complex. It's really cool, but it's like too complex, and I'm just gonna try to steal the basic stuff, things that I can emulate.
Well, listen, man, I'm wondering a couple of things. Did you underestimate this machine? I know you have experience playing a bot before. And what are your thoughts on artificial intelligence and the team at CMU? In a way, it's got to be scary, right? I mean, at times it had to be like, what have I got to do to beat this thing?
Did I underestimate them? Normally, I'm not going to be one to throw my friends under the bus, but I, for one, did not underestimate CMU. These guys, after I met them last year, they're not good poker players, obviously, but they're seriously geniuses. Hopefully, they're going to be the ones that are going to be saving the world. But after they got like the stomp down on Claudico, I just did not see them doing this without a much stronger bot. At the very least, I knew it wasn't going to be a beatdown for them. And it was very difficult for them to see because they actually didn't know how strong or how their bot would fare before, and they had no reason to think that like we wouldn't find a hole this time. So I didn't underestimate them. But to be honest, first few days, although lost, I still thought we had an edge. And so what was the second question?
The second question is this whole business of artificial intelligence is kind of scary, isn't it?
You mean as far as application to poker?
Well, I mean, just in the fact that they can take information, design a computer program, and beat humans. I mean, that's kind of scary. At the same time, you're right. They might end up saving the world.
I am more of an optimist with that. I believe that AI will make the world a better place. For example, human error is just the cause of so many terrible things, and sure, sometimes like a computer can glitch and like morality is kind of on the line, but I, for one, welcome our new robot overlords.
Oh man, it's a great story. Hey, this story's been picked up all over the world, right?
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of attention for this story. I mean, I feel like I wasn't even remembered for anything else I've ever heard.
Well, listen, I have to defend the humans a bit. You guys play 120,000 hands. You were down almost 2 million chips as a team. You lost the least amount of chips. Jason Les lost the most. But I have to defend the humans because you guys were playing long hours. You studied after the sessions were over. It wasn't your usual poker scenario, was it?
That's true. I just wanted to give like what I think I guess my opinions will never be unbiased, but the disadvantages and how I think we would have fared. So the hours originally we wanted to start at 11 a.m., finish at 7 p.m. with an hour dinner break. What ended up happening was we started at 11 and we finished around 10 or 11, and eventually we ditched our dinner break because it was just taking too long. We'd rather just get out a little earlier. After dinner, we grabbed some food really quickly, and we had to go over our stuff. And generally, the morale was pretty bad. We got like a beat down. We were tired, and now we had to look at all the hands that we got bluffed and outplayed, and like we had to go. It was just getting tiring, and like playing downstairs. It definitely wasn't the most optimal condition or situation, but for the record, I think if we would have played in the most optimal situation, with all of our software right in front of us, in-game, like real-time, which is very important, by the way. I think the poker software that we use, or not our software, but our tracker, is likely more important than being able to see the whole cards. Especially when it comes to a bot that adjusts. Like, we would come up with a strategy the night before and apply it in-game the next day, and we didn't realize it wasn't working. Like, for example, we found that it would fold in a certain spot that came up a lot. So we were just pounding away at it, thinking that we were making tons of money, but in fact, we were just bluffing into the deaths of all, it was just terrible. So having a HUD would be very good, but I think at the end it would definitely be closer, but I still think we would at least lose by the one chip mark.
Right, the machine would still beat you. It's that good. It's so advanced nowadays. It really is amazing. I know you're tired. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about Doug Polk and your relationship. I know he's coached you, your friends. How did all of that start, and what has that meant for your poker game?
Oh, just honestly, I credit everything to Doug, really. Wow, we've met in 2012 in Korea, actually. I don't know if I was living in Korea or if I was visiting, but he was in town, and a friend of mine said some Americans were in town if he wanted to go out. So I met him, and I think I was actually leaving town the next day, and I was seeing some friends in Thailand. So I was in Thailand, and I think I was talking to Doug here and there during this time, but it was time for me to go to the U.S. It was the summer of 2012, and what happened was I missed my flight, so I was stuck in Thailand, and I think I was talking to Doug about it, and he said he was coming to Phuket, and I was in Bangkok at this time. So he invited me over, and we hung out for a couple weeks, and that was kind of like the spawn of like our relationship, our coach-student relationship, like friend relationship. So yeah, like that was kind of the start. I think it was around then I started getting coached and staked by him. and then he's helped me move all the way up. And really, I have no one else to thank for anything heads up related.
Yeah, he's that good, right? He's a very good heads up player.
Oh, I think he's the best.
The best.
I think he's the best. Like I mean, the thing is, like, he just plays so differently from the way he taught me, and he just always has like a reason to like deviate, and he just seems to correct so often, and it's just so scary.
Well, I tell you what, I enjoy watching the guy on Twitch. He's done a lot of good YouTube videos on this fight for humanity, as he called it, brains versus AI. He's on Twitch all the time. He's branched out from just playing, and he seems to have quite the brand happening right now. He's expanded it, right?
Yeah, and honestly, I'm extremely happy. He's always been good at this. He's always been a people person. He's always been someone who could have like high energy for like 10 hours a day twitching, and I don't know how he does it, but he's always been able to do this. And really, what he's like, making his content, whether it's Twitch or YouTube, he's actually really like that, like 24/7.
He's got a good sense of humor, that's for sure.
So it's fairly easy. It's like I think this is. I mean, I'm sure this is a lot of work for him. It's all new, but I know it's very exciting, and I'm very happy for him. And I think I hope he does well. I think he's going to do well, and I think he definitely has quite the brand for himself. I know with Upswing Poker, they have a lot of cool stuff coming out right now, but I don't know where Upswing would be without Doug.
Yeah, Doug is certainly one of the main guys. He's funny, and he's very interesting to watch, too. He's got some good insight. Lastly, speaking of brands, tell us about your relationship, your association with Natural 8. You're one of the team pros there.
I am one of the team pros. I team pro since it's been about a year now, and it's an Asian network. And it's a Malaysian skin. And they generally play no-limit games. And PLO is somewhat popular, but just like the East, it's not necessarily... anything outside of no-limit isn't that popular. So whenever you hear that poker's dead, it's just kind of, I guess, a regional thing. Obviously, the toughest games are going to be online. So it's a kind of international Western site. And then it kind of trickles down to, like, I guess, the Western casinos and then the Eastern world.
Well, listen, I know you're tired. I know you had a long trip. I really do appreciate the time. Dong Kim, at Dong or Kim on Twitter. Thanks so much, man. Good luck in Macau.
Thanks, Derek. Appreciate it.